A long time ago, a mentor told me that in the land of the blind, the one eyed man is king. Today, we live in an incredibly distracted world. And in that distracted world, the focused man will be king. And that's what I'm going to teach you today is how to get more focused work done in an incredibly distracted world, because it is the one thing that is going to give you an edge over the competition is if you can remain focused when all the other people are distracted and doing watered down work because they cannot remain focused. So who is this for? This video is for anybody that is not where they want to be. If you're a gym owner, I know I speak to a lot of gym owners. That could be you want more members, you want to make more money, you want to open more locations. But this is not just relevant to gym owners. This is for anybody that is not where they want to be. So if you are an employee of a gym, if you're a trainer as a privately contracted trainer, if you want to get more clients, if you want to excel or grow in your career, maybe get the next promotion, or just perform better at work, this video is for you. So what we're going to talk about today is, first, we're going to talk about why distraction is such a big problem in today's world. Number two, I'm going to teach you some tactics and tips that you can apply right away in your business that is going to elevate your focus. And then finally, I'm going to show you some tools that I use personally to help me get the edge on my competitors and help me stay more focused than ever before. So let's get started. Why is focus such a critical skill set to obtain in today's world? So there's a lot of studies that show that today there is more information being generated and placed in front of us every minute than has ever existed before the year 2000. So think about that. There's more information being content generated, news articles being put out there, information generated every minute across the world because of the great thing that we have called the internet than had ever existed before the year 2000. So if you took every book, encyclopedia, every knowledge base that ever existed before the year 2000, every single minute, that amount of data is being generated. The problem is we have the same hardware that we've always had in our brains, and it's not equipped. The world around us is evolving faster than our brains can physically evolve, which takes thousands and thousands of years. Don't quote me on that. But that's why it's such a big problem. Our brains can physically, without a lot of tools and intention, process all of the information that it's being offered on a regular basis. And this is where people get stuck. This is where people fall into habits where doing distracted work and all of their work gets watered down. So that is why distraction is such a big problem. Now I want to teach you some of the tools that have really helped me over the years. So first I want to zoom out and I want to talk about this from a macro level. All right. So how are you organizing your life and your work? One of the tools that I've used over the years, I originally learned this from Michael Hyatt. There's a great book called Free to Focus, which I think as an entrepreneur and really anybody that is not high level business acumen, Michael Hyatt's work is some of the best. I did a mastermind program with them and they just put out amazing work. So definitely a good resource to look into. But he talks about something called the Ideal Week tool. And it's essentially just taking your week in 15 to 30 minute increments and plotting out what would make the ideal week. So I try to do this every 90 days or really whenever a major life event happens. So my integrator of my company, Jeff Schumacher, had a baby recently. He was out for about 4 weeks. So that was a radical change to my life. So I knew I needed to redo my ideal week. And the way that you want to go about this tool is you want to print out a sheet. I like it physically on paper. You can use Google Sheets or Excel or whatever for this as well. And all you're going to do is you're going to put what are the activities that if you got done this week would make for the ideal week. The thing that I like to say is like, if I sat there on Sunday and I cracked a beer and was like, this was the best week I've had in my entire life. I got more done. I had more family time. I got my workouts in. I ate well. I slept well. Like I just had the most perfect week on all fronts of my life. That's the week that you want to build. And if you've read the E-Myth, they talk about working in the business versus on the business. The idea here is you're working on your life versus in your life. Taking the time to zoom out and say, how could I fit all of this into the week, is the power of this tool. So here's how you're going to build your ideal week. This is a very abbreviated version just to go over the tool, but you're going to first start with just the scheduled activities. So if you're a coach or you're an employee, these are your work hours that you really have no flexibility over, the hours that you coach, the session times that you run, whatever. For me, it's my leadership team meetings, it's my stand-up meetings, my leadership team members, and certain appointments that I have standing that are immovable on my calendar. They go on first, okay? Because there's nothing you can really do about them. The second thing is the activities that typically fall through the cracks when you are stressed, overwhelmed, or busy. So for me, unfortunately, that becomes my workouts. That becomes the time committed to healthy eating or prepping my meals. Unfortunately, sometimes leads to distracted time with my daughters. So that's the second thing that I want to build into my ideal week. I want to budget how much time do I want to allocate for those things that are going to lead to a likelihood of the ideal week. Okay, so for me, it's several hours every single evening, just completely locked in with my daughters. All right, the days that I have my daughters and stuff like that. And then it's weekend times. I want to block off my weekends. And then it's the time that I spend reading and educating myself, which is a very serious commitment for me. So I want to block those times off before any other work stuff comes in. And then it's my workouts. I should have my workouts in there. So I'm going to put in when I'm going to work out, when I'm going to read, when I'm going to shut down work and spend focused time with my daughters. And then the last thing is going to be just your work obligations, the stuff that's not scheduled but is really important. So for me, it's leadership stuff. So connecting with team members, it's building marketing and sales assets. So leading my team in those capacities or developing, doing like knowledge work type activities. Like writing emails for marketing, developing lead magnets for marketing, coming up with strategies and things like that. Okay, so that's how you're going to build your ideal week from a very macro level. And the power here is in what is called Parkinson's Law. I've talked about this a lot over the years on this podcast. There's probably nothing that I found to be more effective or more prevalent in business than Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law states this: your work will expand to fill the time given to completion. If you give yourself all the time in the world to reach a goal, it will take you just enough time to reach that goal. But if you put constraints on that time, your work will shrink to fit those constraints. I can't explain it. I don't know why it happens, but 100% of the time, it works that way. If you shrink the constraints, you will get more done in less time. All right. You mentally, subconsciously will calibrate your efforts to fill or to meet the terms of those constraints. So where does this apply to your ideal week? Set a definitive end time to your day. That's the first one. So for me, it's 5:30 p.m. I will generally, unless like I have literally my family's away and I have nothing to do that day, I will not work past 5:30 p.m. That's the time that I go home and just go about my personal life. All right. So by having that constraint, it forces me to get everything done within that constraint. Now, when my daughters go to bed, maybe I'll work later that night or whatever, depending on what I have going on. So that's the first constraint you want to put on. The next one is in blocking all of your activities. So if you have an activity block that you want to add in, put a hard constraint on the time that it's going to take you to get that done. And I promise you, it will get done in that time. You will subconsciously calibrate your effort to match the time given to completion. All right. So that's how, from a macro level, you're going to start planning your ideal week that's going to elevate your focus. You're going to put on all of the activities that make for the great week. And then you're going to build constraints so that you calibrate your effort to match the constraints that you've put on it. So the tip number 2 for improving your focus from a macro level, so a bigger picture level, has to do with your environment. So us as humans, we are associative beings. Okay. So your environment is incredibly important for the level of work that you're going to get done. If you are in an environment that you also participate in non-focused activities, like if you try to work from home and you sit on the couch where you watch TV, you will not feel, your brain will not lock into a focused, brainwave state or brain state. It just won't, or it'd be very hard to do so. We associate things, there's a concept, I can't remember what they call it, but what fires together wires together. So if you're trying to like work from home in bed and that's where you go to sleep or do other things, you're just not going to be focused. So your environment is really powerful. What's really effective is if you have dedicated spaces to dedicated activities. So sometimes when I really need to focus, I will go to my offsite office space just to be able to lock into focus, because the only thing that I do there is focused work. If I'm just doing regular tasks, then I'll go to my work office. There's a lot of distractions there. It's never going to be the most effective place for me to do work. All right. So assigning environments is going to be your next tip for your macro level of work. And the last part of your environment is understanding that a cluttered environment is going to lead to a cluttered mind. So I struggle with this. I have ADHD. I'm not super organized. I am not the most tidy person in the world. And I feel it when my environment is cluttered. Okay. Here's what happens. When you have clutter in your environment, or where there's things out of place or things that aren't in the final destination, your brain is constantly bouncing off of those things. And it's constant what they call task switching, which is a concept developed by Cal Newport, one of the thought leaders in the focus world and deep work world. It's a great book called Deep Work. But your brain is going to constantly bounce off those things. You will not know this is happening. All right. But if you have a paper that's sitting on your desk that needs to be filed, or a task that needs to be done, whatever you're doing, you're going to constantly be bouncing. You're like, I got to do that thing. Every time you look at it, you're going to bounce your focus. And that task switching is going to lead to very unfocused work, right? You're going to be, I call it like watered down. You're going to have a very watered down work because you're not going to be fully, deeply immersed in anything that you're doing. So if you find yourself in an environment where there's anything out of place, anything that's disorganized, if you have papers that have stacked up, take the time every single week to put that shit away. Get a filing cabinet, get it out of sight, and you will see your focus improve just from that alone. The last thing from a macro level here, and these are just things that you want to incorporate into your life, is the ritual of focus. Now, there's a difference between ritual and routine, and I think it's an important distinction to make here. So there's a great book called Rituals, and they talk about the difference between rituals and routine. Now, if you're listening to this, there's a good chance that you were an athlete growing up, right? Because if you were in fitness, there's a high likelihood that you were an athlete growing up, or maybe you weren't, and there was other ways that this is relevant. But a lot of athletes have rituals before they play. So I had a ritual where I would listen to a specific song before I would play baseball. I would listen to Maggie's Farm by Rage Against the Machine, and it would just switch me on. I would be locked in and focused, and that became a ritual. The difference between a ritual and a routine is if you don't follow a routine, it doesn't affect your mental state, right? If I didn't listen to Maggie's Farm before I played baseball, I would have a very different feel or effect on my performance, right? Going into a game, I wouldn't have felt that locked in feeling. Okay, so the power in rituals is that it changes your state. Because if you can develop rituals to do this intentionally, there's a lot of other tools that I'm not going to go into now, but you want to identify the rituals that lead to better focus. So here's my ritual. When I go into work, I sit down, I put headphones in, and I play, I do a 10-minute guided meditation through Headspace. It's kind of an amateur meditation app, but I've got a really long streak going, so I'm not willing to give that up. So that's my ritual, right? That switches me in. It cuts the task residue from like driving into work to, all right, now I'm focused on work. Because when I come out of that meditation, I do a gratitude journaling really quick, and then I am locked into work, and I'm like, it's like I'm shot out of a cannon. So that is my focus ritual. And then I have something that I do like that for every time I sit down to go into a task block. All right. For me, just without going into too much detail, I'll usually write the outcome that I'm looking for and what I want to get out of this work block. And that's kind of enough to switch me into that focus block. So those are your focus tips from a macro level. These are bigger picture. This is not, what I'm going to get into next. But just to recap, the first one is build your ideal week. All right. Take the time, zoom out, look at your life from a bird's eye view, put everything on paper. It's never going to likely be absolutely perfect. Obviously, stuff comes up. But if you never put it on paper, you can never have a structure to go off of. You're going to build your constraints to tap into Parkinson's law. And then finally, you're going to go in on your environment and you're going to make sure that you're in a distraction-free environment and your environment is suited and you've connected a task to that specific environment, right? Don't get too crazy with that. Like, you don't have to go do calls in one room and emails from another, but the big chunks. So whatever the big chunks of work, try to assign an environment with that task. All right. And then finally, like I said, develop your routine or ritual. If we're going to be, semantics, develop the ritual that's going to physically, mentally change your state to a more focused state. So that's how you're going to start with the macro level of focus. Number 2 is we're going to come down to a ground floor and we're going to talk about focus from a micro level. So now is we're going to take from a micro level that big ideal week, the big tasks and the big goals that we're working on, and we're going to start focusing on what we're going to do every day. All right. And what's important is your task list for every day should be no longer than 3 things. Okay. There's a lot of research that goes into this. There's books like Deep Work by Cal Newport, Indistractable by Nir Eyal, right? They all agree that if you are looking at a task or to-do list with more than 3 items, you are way less likely to get any of them done. And it's a similar thing to the clutter in your environment. If you've got a list that's 20 things long that you're trying to get done, you're constantly mentally going to be bouncing mentally back and forth. So you need that list. You need that big list of all of the things. But whatever you're looking at every day should only be 3 things long. All right. Now you want something to capture things that pop up or ideas or thoughts or things that do get thrown at you, but you want to commit to just 3 main tasks every day. Now, here's the power. When they're done, you go to the big list and you pull another 1 or 2 or another 3, depending on how fast you got them done. So that's from a micro level. Only commit to 3 things every single day. It sounds counterintuitive, but I promise you'll get them done more consistently than if you had a big list that you were pulling from. Next, from micro level, you need a capture tool. So I mentioned earlier, I have ADHD. It's bad. I'm all over the map. Shit is constantly coming to mind, or ideas and stuff like that. You need a way to capture those things that pop up. And it could be somebody popping in and throwing stuff onto your plate, or emails coming in and dinging and pinging and whatever, which we'll talk about later. You need a way to capture that is going to be referenced later. Because if you don't capture it, this is where a lot of people get stuck in distracted work, is they let these things swirl in their brain. And what's important to remember is our brains are meant for creating, not storage. So you must get them out of your brain as fast as possible and capture them somewhere that will be processed later. Okay. So I use 2 tools generally. Number 1 is my trusty yellow notepad. Okay. So this is generally my capture tool. It's different from my daily planner. So I created a daily planner. I don't have one on me right now, but I created a daily planner that has all these tools in one place. I used to sell them online, but I don't sell them online anymore. The next best thing is the Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt. Your planner shouldn't be your capture tool. Okay, your capture tool, generally, you want another piece of paper, because a lot of the stuff that you're capturing, if we're honest, is bullshit that isn't important, doesn't need to get done. If you start bogging down your daily planner with your captured ideas and thoughts and just random stuff, it's going to start turning into just too much clutter. All right. That's my personal opinion there. So you need a capture tool. So I use pen and paper in my yellow notebook. Then I will translate that into my planner when stuff does need to get done. The next capture tool that I have, and this is where a lot of people miss the mark, is I have an audio capture tool. So I have an app called Captio, and they changed the app recently, but it's CAPTIOO, and it's a voice capture tool where whatever note that I put in, I can record a voice note, it'll transcribe it, or I can type it. It sends it to my email. So it sends it to my email, so that's where it is captured that can be processed. And the best part is I have rules set in my email so that any email from this Captio app automatically gets filed into a specific box so that it's stored away so that I can reference it when I need it. It's not going to sit in front of me. Okay. So that's from a micro level. You need a tool to capture stuff that gets popped up. If you don't, you're just going to start developing this like world of cluttered shit, post-it notes everywhere and random pieces of paper with all kinds of shit on it. None of that is going to lead to distracted work. All right. So you need, the rule of thumb is everything needs a home. All right. So everything in your world needs a home. My ideas go to Captio. They go to my email and my idea inbox. This notebook is where I capture all just random thoughts and ideas that come to mind for later processing, which I usually process them at the end of the day or once a week in a weekly kind of review that I do. Every piece of paper goes into a filing cabinet. That's my capture mechanism. And just a side note, a filing cabinet is very effective. If you don't have one, I would get one because that's where a lot of your paper shit has to live. All right. So the next tool for developing better focused work has to do with understanding your chronotype. So this is a little bit nuanced. If you're just getting started with like really trying to be more focused, do not stress about this part. Okay, I'm just going to give you a caveat here. But if you are a little bit more advanced or you've been in the game longer and you want to really crank it up from 9 to 10 on a focus scale, you want to understand your chronotype. And that essentially is the idea of when your brain does its best work. So there's a great book called When by Dan Pink that talks a little bit about this. But honestly, there's tons of tools and tests that you can take online with varying effectiveness. But I'm a fan of just more self-awareness. So here's what it means. So your chronotype is the time that you function best for different tasks. So for me, I'm a morning person. So I have the most energy first thing in the morning. So I want to prioritize the hardest, most, so I want to get up early. So that's an important thing with my chronotype. And I want to like do the hard things that require the most focus because that's when I'm going to be the most locked in. All right. They do brainwave tests and they can measure your brainwave states and alpha, beta, theta brainwaves and all that. So you want to understand when you do your best work. If you're not a morning person, from your chronotype, you might not do your best work in the mornings. You might need to reserve your deep work or the harder, more focused knowledge work, problem solving or creative solution work towards an afternoon block, right? Your chronotype is going to dictate when the best work should be getting done. All right. So again, it's a little bit nuanced. If you're just starting out and like you're just applying some of these tools, probably not the most important thing for you to do. So those are the tools and tactics that are going to help you get more focus. So we're starting from a macro level. We're making sure that we've built an ideal week that we can at least be striving towards. We are in an environment that is conducive to the results that we want to get. We've removed clutter. We're keeping ourselves organized in our environment because that's going to remove those open loops of swirling ideas that are tugging on your physical, mental bandwidth every single day. And you've established some rituals that are going to help you snap into a better mental state to get you more focused. And we talked about from a micro level, right? Only committing to 3 tasks every single day, having a capture tool so that you can capture all of the stuff that does pop up so you don't just get thrown into new tasks and go to task switching, right? You have it captured so you can process it later. And finally, we talked about your chronotype. So the understanding that when you work every single day, is important to getting the most effective work done. Now, I want to share with you a few tools that I've used currently and as well as over the years that have even just helped me elevate even further. So, number one is everybody knows ChatGPT is like a huge deal these days. I don't have ChatGPT do a lot of my creative work. I still don't think it's there yet to like write emails or blog posts or really create content, but it is amazing at blasting you through writer's block or thought plateaus. So if you don't know where to start, which remember, the start is what stops most people, is they just don't know where to start. So then they just toil away at it and like fuck around and don't get anything done. Use it to kickstart you. Just give it a prompt like, think like X and tell me, give me the framework for this thing that I'm doing, right? And then build it off from there. So that's number one. Use AI. Do not be shy away from it. Anybody that is still shying away from AI or ChatGPT, you will be burned so badly in the future, it's not even funny. That's where it's going, so you might as well be up on it and get used to using it, all right? Number two is I use Apple AirPods, and I have an app that plays what's called binaural beats. So I don't know if binaural beats do anything at all. I don't know if they're effective. What they state is that it will change your brainwave to a theta brainwave state, which is most effective for focus and like deep work, creative problem solving. All right. So beta brainwaves are what they call busy beta. That's going to be a very distracted brainwave state. That's where you're going to be if you're coming in from work and you don't have a ritual to get you into a mental state of focus. Binaural beats are shown, or they say they can change your brainwave. I don't know how it works. I don't know if it does work, but putting the headphones in and playing, I use an app called Focus Brain, is part of my ritual. So whether the binaural beats physically do anything from a mechanical standpoint, I don't really care or know. What happens is putting the headphones in and putting the tunes on is what snaps me into a more focused state of mind. All right, so binaural beats are one tool that I use. Another tool is, another tool that I use and I've used over the years is a Google Chrome plugin called Newsfeed Eradicator. All right, it's no secret that we use social media for a lot of our stuff. Right, I'm on Facebook a lot for work-related things. But Newsfeed Eradicator will actually wipe out your Facebook newsfeed. So you plug it into your Google Chrome, it's free, and it'll basically just erase your whole newsfeed so you physically cannot access or get sucked into doom scrolling, whatever the fuck's going on in the world. And it'll replace it with just a motivational quote. So I've used this for years. It's been incredibly helpful because Facebook is designed to get you sucked in and distracted to spend all your time there. All right. So another one in the world of social media is, I don't have it with me, it's at work, but I have a little square called The Brick. And you can buy these, I think it's just called thebrick.com, but it's a thing that you tap with your phone and you can set rules for it, but it'll automatically block any apps that are distracting. So you can set preset, templates for what you want, but I will set it to distract any social media, Facebook, Instagram. That's pretty much all I have. If I'm in a focused deep work block, I'll block my email. I'll block my Slack. I'll block any messages. I will block everything that could ding, ping, vibrate, distract me in any possible way. All right. This is what most people don't have the courage to do. They don't have the courage to actually physically block themselves to it. They use social media and their email as a little pacifier to like give them little dopamine hits when they need it, even though it's distracting you, even though it's ruining your work. And that comes down to what I opened this podcast with. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the land of the distracted, the focused man will be king. If you apply these tools, you will have more focus and you will be getting more done, and you will be the king of your work in whatever capacity that you are.